and welcome to More to Space and Air with Ayomide Adeofe Omole. Today I have with me Dr. Anthony Yuen, who is a specialist consultant at McKinsey Company in the Boston office and co-chair of the Space Generation Advisory Council, SGAC. Until recently, he was a practicing physician and assistant professor at Weill Cornell Medicine in New York City. Throughout his 10+ years medical career, he has advocated passionately for the use of space technology to benefit health on Earth, including the use of satellite technology for telemedicine, satellite imagery for disaster response, and Earth observation data to inform public and population health. Care work includes a research project on the use of satellite and ground-based pollution data to predict COVID-19 caseloads using machine learning. Anthony served as co-director of the Weill Cornell Telesimulation Day, in which telesimulation was used to train analog astronauts and their medical ground crews to respond to simulated real-life emergencies during an analog mission. He is a member of the Working Group on Space and Global Health at the United Nations Committee on the Peaceful Uses of Outer Space, UN COPUS. He received his bachelor's degree in mechanical and space engineering and his doctor of medicine from the University of Queensland. Anthony has been an active member and leader of the Space Generation Advisory Council for 8 years, in addition to his medical practice. He co-founded a project group within SGAC for space and life sciences when he saw that there were very few opportunities and connections available to young professionals in the nascent sector. As of today, the group has connected over 800 young people and has been replicated as a model at SGAC, where a similar platform now connects over 3,000 young people across the world. Anthony has served in other leadership roles at SGAC, including as web coordinator and treasurer before becoming chair. In his current role as chair, Anthony has championed broadening SGAC activities into 5 main pillars of events: scholarship, project groups, policy and advocacy, and education and professional development. He is involved with many professional organizations outside SGAC, including the American Institution of Aeronautics and Astronautics, the Aerospace Medical Association, and the International Astronautics Federation, IAF. Anthony is currently working on an online learning platform hosted by SGAC to help members bring quality space education anywhere. I am truly honored to be in the presence of space royalty. Thank you so much for joining me today, Anthony. I look forward to an insightful conversation with you.
Thank you so much for that introduction, and it's lovely to be here.
Thank you for honoring our invitation. So I'm going to be asking you if you could please introduce yourself and lead us through your career in space and any other interesting thing you might want to share.
Sure, I'd love to do that. Although I think your introduction kind of covers a lot of it. So I think a couple of things that I like to highlight from my background is, although my first bachelor degree was in mechanical and space engineering, and I'm a space nerd at heart, I have taken a very non-traditional path in the space industry, because I think if you talk to a lot of people about space, right, people are like immediately just think about rocket scientists or astronauts. But the reality, especially today, is that the field is so much more broader than that, and that you need everybody from all sorts of different background in the space sector to make it a success. And so increasingly, I think over especially my last 8 years or so in SGAC, I really seen a tremendous growth of a diversity of backgrounds from both their training, but also from nationality and where they come from. And that all make our space community so much more vibrant and so much more wonderful, a wonderful place to be. But just briefly, yes, I did my engineering degree, and then I went immediately into medical school. and started practicing as a physician. And during that time, I was like, well, you know, I still like space, but I'm a doctor. How do I mix it together? And so along the way, someone actually told me about this, and I didn't know it until I finished medical school. It was like, there's actually a field called space medicine, and there's people who are doctors whose job is to either one, look after people who are in space, the astronauts, and they're called generally flight surgeons, or there are a whole bunch of people who do research in this area, because space, as you can imagine, is a very harsh environment on the human body. And we really just cannot survive in space, even, you know, if there's a spacecraft. There's so many other factors that make space really inhabitable for the human body for the long term. And so there's a whole history of a lot of people doing research in this area to trying to get us, you know, oh, how do we get us to the moon? How do we get us to the Mars, so that, you know, we get astronauts that are actually healthy and can do the mission, and so forth. Or for people to like live in space for a long duration of time. So kind of, you know, after I realized that there was a field like that, that's when I kind of trying to develop and figure out, you know, and explore what this is about, right? Like, if you don't know, you don't know. But then, like, this is when I found out about SGAC, the Space Generation Advisory Council, and there I met people from all sorts of backgrounds. You know, definitely lots of engineers, a lot of policy and lawyers, but also actually a lot of people with different backgrounds. I met biologists, I met space biologists, I met space archaeologists, I met a lot of space business people, right? So, and that's where I kind of like realized there is actually a big field in here. And my really interest is in, you know, looking in medicine and the life sciences field in space. So that I'll stop there.
Thank you so much. That is so loaded. And yes, you mentioned that you are a licensed physician. So I was going to ask you, how were you able to transition into this role that you are now? And what does being a space consultant mean?
So I'm not a space consultant, I'm a specialist consultant with McKinsey. So yeah, so, you know, when I was a physician, I was an academic physician. So I, you know, did clinical care, I did research, I did administrative stuff, I did, and that's what, you know, being an academic physician is. However, one of the reason why I switched was, you know, there are a lot of really amazing people in the field doing research, but research is a very kind of focused field with many years of like dedication to kind of really solve like and push the boundary of science, right? And honestly, you know, I have to be honest, you know, I wasn't that kind of person. I like it, I can do it, but I wasn't, you know, I wasn't like someone who I know that I can be an academic for the rest of my life. And so it was an opportunity for me to kind of explore something different. And so long story short, you know, an opportunity came up where I can join a management consulting firm and kind of, you know, half a step into there. So let me tell you a little bit about, you know, what management consultant is. So basically, it is there's a couple of big and small firms all across the world whose job is to help advise clients, be it, you know, companies or organizations or governments, into solving some of the biggest challenges around the world. Some of them are strategy related, some of them are big projects, some of them are management, but we are a group of people who have a lot of expertise or a lot of experience that can kind of bring to help solve problems. So that's kind of what I do in a day-to-day basis is I help people solve problems, and that's pretty much what we do. And we do it on a global scale, and it's a wonderful group of people to work with. It is different because, you know, I'm no longer practicing medicine, so I'm no longer serving a patient, you know, from a day-to-day perspective, and I do miss that. But now, you know, I have the opportunity to make an impact on a much bigger scale, you know, either across like a big company or organization, or even like government, or even the world, and that's, you know, at the end of the day, right, like what really drives me is the opportunity to solve problems and solve challenges in the world. And I did that as a physician, one patient at a time, and now I just do it on a bit of a bigger scale.
Wow, thank you so much. And we're so happy to have you over this side because then we are able to draw from your wealth of knowledge. My next question to you is, why do you think space technology is important to the benefit of mankind, especially to public and population health?
Yeah, so I'm actually really passionate about that. And this is something that I think has always happened, but I think in the last 5 years or so has really kind of gained prominence in the global stage. I think a lot of us have heard about, the United Nations Millennium Development Goals, and then now, the Sustainable Development Goals. And when I was doing global health, like that was like the mantra was like, how do you support that? And honestly, the medicine can do a lot, and medicine has advanced a lot, but it is often much more effective to be preventive rather than to cure when a disease comes. So really from what we see from a global health perspective, from a public health perspective, from a population health perspective, it is so much more worthwhile to invest in building like basic needs for people to thrive in wherever they are from, right? So access to clean water, better quality air, food, access to good food, like healthy food, education, and all of those are kind of so much more the building blocks and foundation of good health. And so how does space tie into all of this is that increasingly, because of our advances in technology, especially in Earth observation, and what that means is like there is a fleet of satellites that's circling around the top of above our heads right now that look at the Earth and measure the Earth in many, many different ways to see how we're using, our planet, right? Like, how are we making sure that the air is clean? Where's the pollution coming from, and what kind of pollution are there? Like especially for example, like the PM 2.5 particulate matters are very bad for people with asthma, right? We track that on a day-to-day basis. We look at the water quality from the sky because we can look at river deltas and see pollution that way, and algae growth because that affects health. And then we look at soil data and how the land change, and also population development. All of this is looking in from space. Every day, there's a whole fleet of satellite doing that. And I think really what's really exciting is a lot of this data is actually available. They're not, a lot of, and the United Nations, especially from our Space and Global Health Working Group, has really been pushing for open access to this data and open sharing of this data so that people like you and me, people with, a bit of computer science background or engineering background can actually use this data to make an impact. And I make a case, when COVID started, one of the things that we did was actually use air pollution data, which was publicly available, to see how people were isolating, right? Because there's a correlation between the use of cars and traffics and factory with, how much people were isolating at the start. And that was potentially can be seen as a surrogate marker for how, potentially how much, case or infection load there is in a particular, and you can plan, for resources. Oh yeah, this place, the social distancing is not working very well. There might be a surge coming up. So that's what we were doing. So we were using open data to try to make a downstream decision for people's health. And that's how you connect all the dots. And so similarly, there's a lot of opportunity in agriculture, in water, in health, in population planning. And it's a huge field. And I really encourage people to explore that. And there's a lot of great resources on the internet and where you can use data that's coming from space to help make a better world.
Thank you for that. And talking about connecting the dots, do you want to talk to us about the project group you founded within the SGAC for space and life sciences? And what are the benefits of this project group, especially for young professionals?
Yeah. So when I first started exploring, what is space medicine and what space life sciences, there are people, but it was back then a little bit in silos, or they're all in different groups, especially from like a global perspective, right? It's concentrated in certain places, and you just don't know. But what's really amazing is that there are going to be people who share your interests in the world. Something, anything as broad as like, in space manufacturing, to space law, to like something as narrow as space biology and space archaeology, you will find somebody out there in the world who share that similar interest to you and who can become your, either friend, colleague, collaborator, or can form something together, right? And that's where the magic happens. And I think this is truly one of the strongest strengths of the Space Generation Advisory Council, is that it's just a network of people that bring people with the similar passion in space together, and you will find all sorts of different backgrounds there. So what I was seeing in SGAC at that time was like, there's definitely people who were interested in space medicine, but it was hard to connect to where it is. And so the whole idea that I founded together with Dr. Rochelle Verho was to actually put together a network that was just focused on space medicine and life sciences. And we started small, right? We knew some people, we connect them together. And all it is just a Slack platform where we can talk to each other and connect and say, hey, I have this interest in this project. Anyone know something about it? Anyone know interest? And that's how ideas get started. So having this platform and bring people together, and then within, when people come together, then they have subgroups, right? So the space biology is a subgroup within it, and there's people who are very interested about biology in space. There's people who are interested about nutrition in space nutrition, and so begin, that's how you kind of get connected to other people, and then find opportunities for your personal and professional growth. And I think that's kind of how you can make the most use of it.
Thank you so much for that. That is a very succinct culmination of your journey and also your experience in the field. So the highlight of this conversation is your current position, which you hold within the SGAC as co-chair. Do you want to summarize what this role means and any other thing you might want to share with us?
It's always a little sad to leave something, and my term finished at the end of March with SGAC. And like you say, I've been with the organization for I think probably a little bit more than that, 8 years now. What I would like to say is that, I think SGAC is a very special organization because of the people in it. And I think that network of people across the world, where there's just that shared passion in just one thing, just space, really brings us together. And the people are just really wonderful. I can go to any continent on the world and know somebody who I know through SGAC, and that's kind of magical, right? But not only that, is that we all kind of very much have a similar passion in space, to develop in space, right? To kind of see it work for everybody on Earth. And I think that's really reflected in our updated mission and vision as an organization, is that is what it's about. It is about space for the benefit of everyone on Earth. And I think that's kind of what draws people together. In terms of my role as chair, so as chair, it's a very special role to kind of look over the entire organization, right? And where SGAC as an organization is going strategically, and also manage big parts of what projects are going on within SGAC. So I have to say, one of the biggest things that I got out of the role is about how do you kind of plan a strategy for a nonprofit organization which has a great mission at its heart, and how do you motivate and encourage the big group of volunteers across the world towards that same goal. And that's really what the challenge of being a chair is how do you marshal all of that tremendous passion and energy, which is just really wonderful to see, but actually putting them together and drawing them together towards real impact in our industry, right? And we see that real impact by, there's a lot of places you can go and people know about SGAC. A lot of our sponsor partners are very high level people in the space agencies, in governments, in the industry, who all know about SGAC and what we do, and know that the future of the space sector is starting at SGAC. Like, this is where we come, and this is where we grow, and this is where we learn and we connect. And then in the end, like, we are empowered to do something to make space better for everyone. And I think SGAC is kind of mature to the fact that, we've been around for just a little over 20 years, but we're now really leveraging our voice as a big group of young people in space, and on kind of telling the message to the world is like, we really see space as something very important, very special. We care a lot about space sustainability. We care a lot about climate change and how space can contribute to fixing that. We care a lot about opportunities and professional development for people all across the world to join that space sector. And I think this is truly what SGAC has really kind of grown to, especially in the time that I have been there. So that's kind of really the impact that we're seeing. And, I think I've been very lucky to be in that role, because I truly get to see like the creativity, the passion from people across the world, from SGAC members across the world. And that's really one of the things that really keep me going in the job.
Thank you for that. My last question to you would be, really, what memories can you share with us? And what will you say that your legacy is at SGAC?
I've had a lot of fun memories with SGAC. I have to say, great memories at the Fusion Forum, and going to Space Symposium. Wonderful memories going to the Space Relation Congress and IAC. I still remember one of our dinner was in the Smithsonian and Space Museum in Washington, D.C. Sitting under those beautiful historical relics from across our space ages, which was truly something special. But I want to highlight one memory that I had, which kind of tells you like how interesting our organization is at the last UN Copious meeting just before the pandemic hit in February 2020. We were there in Vienna, and we had a pretty big delegation, right? Because it was just, SGAC can have a big delegation to go there. It's a great experience for young people. But we were actually invited to the Swiss embassy, the ambassador's residence, for an evening event where we got to really interact with a lot of key people within Copious in the space and technical subcommittee, and really got to like basically hang out with all these ambassadors and leaders of like their delegation who are very passionate about space and young people. And it was wonderful to have the opportunity to have the year of people who are obviously quite important. And they were listening to us. And not only that, but I still have a great memory of playing foosball with the Swiss ambassador, and it was wonderful, right? It's a sort of space committee. It's like we all love space. They had a huge rocket at the front as a decoration, and they were doing this, with a couple of organizations, including SGAC. And I think that really reflects how much of a wonderful organization we are, and how much we've come so far, as well as our reputation on the global stage, which we have worked really hard over the last 20 years to earn. And I really hope to see it continue to grow in the next 20 years. So I will leave it at that. I just want to kind of share that, whatever your background, whatever your dreams, like, it is possible. It is much more possible when you have a network of people who share that same dream. And I really encourage you to reach out, because there will be somebody who has a similar dream who can actually support you. And I really think where I am today is because of this network of friends and people that I know in SGAC.
Thank you so much, Anthony. If people would want to connect with you, how can they do that?
Feel free to email me. I also have a Twitter account, and I'm also on LinkedIn, and I'm happy to connect. Just message me.
Thank you very much for making time out to speak with me today. From us at Space and Air, we'd like to share our sincere appreciation to you and for all your meritorious service at the SGAC. I look forward to